All right, guys. So yesterday we looked at what it really means to study world history. Well, now we're going to start getting into the nitty gritty of world history. So I'll do these screencasts from time to time, and it's largely because some of you will be at different spots on an assignment. So if you're finished your introduction to history digital worksheet, great. Then you're watching the screencast, and then you'll move on to the next thing. So as I go through this, again, no need to take notes if you don't want to. It'll be here forever. But again, I would watch it, I would jot some stuff down, and I would make note of some important details that I'll highlight throughout this. Now, just a quick recap. Remember, prehistory, and we haven't really covered the Paleolithic and Neolithic era, but they're a part of prehistory, and we'll talk about the Neolithic and Paleolithic era in the coming days. Remember, prehistory is the time before writing. Now, the Neolithic Revolution, that led to some changes in terms of how people lived. We'll talk about that again. I just put this up here to recap some of the things that you learned in middle school and to introduce you to some things we'll talk about later. But again, some of this should just be reviewed for you. And what I'm going to talk about in the coming slides should be some new things for you. So the first set of civilizations were all located on rivers. So rivers, and I told you yesterday, we're going to talk about geography quite a bit. So rivers provided regular water supply, transportation, food, and fertile land for farming. And again, we'll talk about the geography in every single unit. So it's important to understand that these early civilizations started around water because the land is really fertile. You can fish, you have water to drink, you have water for animals. Again, water means life at this point. So people set up their lives around water. And you can see it here. The Nile River with Egypt, the Tigris and the Euphrates, we'll talk about Mesopotamia, the Indus River, which we'll talk about the Indus Valley civilization, and then the Yellow River in China. So the early major river civilizations take off and they become really successful because of how close they are to water. You don't see these giant successful civilizations setting up in the Sahara Desert. There's no water there. Nothing can live there. So our earliest civilizations, this is important to understand, the earliest civilizations set up and thrive around water. Now, some other civilizations that are more coastal, again, but still near water. So, again, the civilizations in the Americas began in the mountains. These civilizations learned how to farm on the mountains and fill the swamps with land for farming. They created great cities like the Incas at Machu Picchu. But again, yes, there's mountains, but look how close they are to the water. That's the big thing. Water means life at this point. You're not going to see any civilizations so far inland that nothing can grow. You need to be around water. Now, we're going to talk about the 7 basic features of civilization. This is going to be the premise of your assignment today. And I'll explain it a little bit more. But when you open up your assignment today, which will be in the same spot that you find this video, read the instructions, and down the left-hand side, you'll see some links. That'll take you to a more detailed description of these features of a civilization. The next couple slides that discuss the 7 basic features of civilization are nothing more than a tool to help you with your assignment. So instead of me stopping the entire class and going over every single one of the 7 features with you, I'm going to trust you to move freely through this. So as I click through, I'm going to highlight some points for you, things you should definitely jot down on your digital assignment. And again, these are things you're going to need to know for your test. So make sure you're paying attention. Write down as much as you want to in those boxes. The more you write down, the better off you're going to be, I promise. The first one we're going to start with is stable food supply. You cannot have a civilization if you don't have food 24/7. Again, this is just common sense. You're not going to put your civilization in the middle of the desert. Not enough food, not enough water. You can't sustain life. You got to have a social structure. People have to have jobs, and now unfortunately, our society still ranks people based off of their income. And this is how early civilizations were set up. And we'll talk about this caste system when we talk about India and how theirs is very rigid. And we'll talk about it with feudalism towards the end of the course. But again, civilizations rank people. And then you have government. Obviously, you need government to control people, to enforce laws, and to maintain safety, provide schooling. You need government to oversee the main parts of people's lives. Now, religion. You are going to need to know monotheistic and you're going to need to know polytheistic. You will see those words probably in every unit. I mean, you'll hear it several times. So, monotheistic, one God, polytheistic, worship many gods. But again, religion is a big one because it unites people. When a group of people in a civilization all share the same beliefs, it's easier to stay together, it's easier to organize a government, and it's easier to hold people accountable for specific things. You have a highly developed culture, art, music, literature, to express their talents, their beliefs. You have a specialized labor, technology. We'll talk about technology a lot. We'll talk about how people manipulate the landscape to really help them survive. And then a written language. Remember, prehistory is before writing. So now we talk about these civilizations. They are a civilization because they have written language. So remember, prehistory, no writing. Writing means history. So again, that's what the significance of this is. Now, I know I ran through this kind of quick. This video is not very long. But again, take a look at some of these bolded terms. As I said, hopefully you learned about the Paleolithic period, the Neolithic period, the Neolithic Revolution. Hopefully you learned about these when you were in middle school, but it should be a quick recap. Don't be afraid if you don't know them in and out. We're going to talk about them more. But the reason we're starting with the beginnings of civilization is because I want you to be able to see, as we talk about the Paleolithic period, the Neolithic period, I want you to be able to see how the Paleolithic period led to the Neolithic period and why it is a revolution. So I think it's important that you understand the characteristics of civilization. That way you can see how the Paleolithic period is not an actual civilization, or there were no civilizations, and then how during the Neolithic period and the Neolithic Revolution we start to get these civilizations. I know some other teachers that will start with the Neolithic and the Paleolithic periods and then talk about the characteristics of a civilization. But I think it's important for you to understand what a civilization is so you can understand why the Paleolithic period is not a civilization and the Neolithic Revolution, the Neolithic period, leads to these civilizations. So again, as we go through, as I told you day one, yesterday really, you have to be able to make connections in this class. So today, we're introducing the characteristics of a civilization. Then, on probably Monday and Tuesday, we're going to look at why the Paleolithic period is not a time period of civilization and why the Neolithic Revolution led to civilizations. So you're going to have to connect all the things we talked about through these slides. You're going to have to tie these all into an argument, especially you honors folks, because you always have an essay on your tests. You have to be able to tell me why the Paleolithic period was not a time of civilization and what changed that led to the Neolithic era and the Neolithic Revolution creating these societies and these civilizations. So keep that in mind. If you were to put some of that down on a piece of notebook paper, especially you honors folks, because that's really what your essay is going to focus on. How is the Neolithic Revolution leading us to civilizations, and why is the Paleolithic period not known for civilizations? You have to make that argument on your test. So write some stuff down. If you need help making those connections, let me know. And like I said, we're going to talk about this more, but this is more to help you introduce this topic and refer to, you have, again, this video is not going anywhere. You'll have all this information to study for on your test. If you ever get confused about how to link the Paleolithic period to the Neolithic Revolution, to all of the slides we talked about in terms of the characteristics of a civilization, the basic features, that's what this video is here for. I wanted you to have it, I want you to use it, and it'll help you. So keep that in mind. And you can start on your assignment that is focused on exploring these characteristics and features of a civilization.